Hello and welcome to episode number 58 of the Hobbies and Happiness podcast, where we talk all about the hobby that makes us happy, tabletop gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Dan.
I'm Jim, and today we're going to be talking about Evergreen games.
All right, so today we're talking about a topic that I'm kind of surprised we haven't talked about.
Me too.
This has been a topic that we've wanted to talk about for a year, and I just don't know why we have not gotten around to talking about it. And honestly, like with how I kind of envision talking about it, like how it relates to card games, I'm kind of interested to see where this conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
But it should be an interesting conversation. But before we get into that, we got to talk about our sponsor, Audible.com. If you head over to audibletrial.com/hobbies and happiness, you can sign up for a free 30-day trial of Audible where you can get a free audiobook. That's right, a free audiobook. If you head over to audibletrial.com/hobbies and happiness, sign up for that free trial. You can cancel before the 30 days is up if you don't like the service, but you would get to keep your free book. Now, what's even cooler is if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get two credits for 2 free books. So I know a lot of people are Amazon Prime members. I've been an Amazon Prime member myself for a long time, since college, actually, I think.
Wow.
So it's been a long time since I've been an Amazon Prime member.
What, like 20 years ago?
Yeah. So head over again to audibletrial.com/hobbies and happiness to sign up for your free 30-day trial and get a copy of a free book that, hopefully when we don't have a podcast episode that you need to catch up on, you can listen to an audiobook of your choosing. All right. So today, like we talked, we're talking about Evergreen games. So, but before we even start talking about the games, okay, I've said this so many times before, but we got to define our terms. Evergreen, like when it comes to tabletop gaming, like what's an evergreen? I feel like it's kind of changing. Like it can change from year to year, right? But again, all of these are terms which I don't think there's like a universally accepted definition of what is considered an evergreen game, right? So Jim, I'm going to throw it to you first. What do you like? How would you define an evergreen game? Because I know when we first talked about it, you like had some thoughts of, oh, well, these games in my mind are evergreen games.
Yeah.
But what makes those evergreen games? Before we get into the games,
For me specifically, the evergreen kind of has to stand the test of time a little bit.
Okay.
So I would assume games that are a bit older, they don't have to be extremely old.
Like Clue.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be extremely old,
right.
But still have some age in it.
Yeah.
And it shows that, all right, are these games still relevant today? Or is it just like some fad that happened for maybe like 10 years and then people are just like, oh, I don't really care anymore?
So like if it was a fad, right?
Yeah.
Could it have once been considered an evergreen and is no longer an evergreen? Or like in your mind, would it be like once an evergreen, always an evergreen?
I don't know. Well, the other thing with the evergreen, I would say that it's pretty much always relevant.
Okay.
So I mean, once the game is
like no matter where you are on the timeline, it's always relevant. Like thinking about it in MCU terms, right?
Yeah. Because it's like, say, how long have the MCU movies been going on since Iron Man 1?
When I was in college, so I want to say
04?
It could. Let me look. Let me look it up because Iron Man 1 was the first one. Iron Man 1.
Yeah. I just also don't remember when they really started.
Iron Man 1 was
super
2008.
2008. Okay.
Yeah, that was 08.
Okay, 08. And so as of right now, it's been, 14 years? Man,
yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a long
Been
ride.
a long time, yeah. Right.
I remember seeing that in theater.
Yeah. I remember seeing it in theater too. I went to see Iron Man 1 by myself.
Yeah.
I was home. It was in the summer and like I didn't have anything to do during the day. I think it was like a weekend. I think I had my family was like out of town or something. And I'm just like, you know what? Or I might have just played hooky from work. I can't remember. I really can't remember, to be honest.
So if we talk about that, right? Let's say a game came out When did Marvel Legendary come out?
Marvel Legendary's been out for about 10 years.
Okay, so about 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could definitely pretty much throw that into the Evergreen genre. But then what happens if Marvel kind of just like falls off? They start not really producing good content anymore, or movies, product, whatever it is.
Yep.
And the game just slowly turns into irrelevant. Like, but if it was over 20 years that it was, a big deal, you could definitely insert that into an evergreen title. There's like 20 years. That's someone being born and is now almost legal to drink.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like an entire generation.
Marvel Legendary was released in 2012.
Okay, so
Trying to find
10
a
years
date,
right now.
like a specific date, but I'm just finding the year of 2012. Yeah.
So we're looking at 10 years right now. And if it keeps going to 15 years, close to 20, I could definitely see it being inside of the Evergreen tier. But if anything ever happens to Marvel.
Speaking of Marvel Legendary, though, like they just came out with Doctor Strange. No, actually, Guardians of the Galaxy is the most recent set that was released.
Yeah.
I want to say it was their 26th set,
Wow.
maybe. And they have Black Panthers coming out, was recently announced, and they just announced actually that they're doing the Infinity Saga.
Okay.
So they're going to be incorporating that. And then somehow I'm also seeing there's a Black Widow set coming as well. So they're constantly coming out with new sets for Marvel Legendary.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I apologize.
Yeah. So I mean, that was pretty much just my thought about it. Yeah. Kind of being relevant, but also being there for a longer time frame.
So like being relevant for a long time.
Yeah.
So but in order to be relevant, you kind of need, well, I think now when you say relevant, basically, I think what you're saying is popular.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we turned to Merriam-Webster, good old Merriam-Webster, right? We looked up Evergreen, having foliage that remains green. And
not that one, Dan. Not that one.
Compared to deciduous. Okay, no. It's the last thing. It's
the second and the third one makes sense.
I only see one.
Oh, really? Oh, when I was looking up, I saw
yeah.
2 and 3.
2A, retaining freshness or interest. Something that retains its freshness, interest, or popularity. So that's what I'm seeing in Webster. So that's something that is popular, fresh, it piques interest, right? I mean, Magic the Gathering is always piquing people's interest.
That's
I mean,
evergreen.
Well, right. Like when it comes to card games, I don't think you don't get more evergreen than Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because those have been around for forever, and they're constantly coming out with new sets and are selling a lot.
Hugely popular in the entire world.
So I found this. This is a website called whatgamesare.com. And I was just doing some research and just searching Evergreen, right? And what this site says, it says a few games managed to retain enough users to be considered profitable for many years. They are called evergreens. So in addition to popularity, you also look at profitability, right? But I mean, I think those two are kind of intertwined, right? Because like if something is popular, it's selling because it's popular. Like it's cyclical, right? And so each and every year, okay, here it is again, and it just continually sells and continually sells, right? So I think that's a cycle, right? This also says, and I found this kind of interesting here, but it reads, Evergreens survive by being passed on. Soccer in the United Kingdom is a sport that is passed from generation to generation and has become so woven into popular culture that it will likely never fade away. On a shorter time scale, some games based on television shows, such as Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, also have evergreen qualities because the show acts as a continual refresher for interest in the game. Others form such strong cultures that there is always an appetite for refresh, like Dungeons & Dragons. Evergreen games are very rare, though, often public domain, like poker, football, chess, and bingo, for example, and extremely hard to just create on spec. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty apt description of like what an evergreen title or what evergreen is.
Yeah.
Before we go on, I want to touch on this other article that we found. This is an article that was written by Jamie Stegmaier of Stonemaier Games. Okay. And the title is Evergreen Games. What do they have in common? I'll post the link. I'll post a link to this article wherever you're listening to this or watching it, so you can check it out for yourself. But he's got a pretty good article here, and what he kind of looks to do is, like the title says, look at top evergreen games and look at it from the standpoint of what do they have in common, which makes sense coming from a designer, right? Because he's trying to see, okay, what makes these games popular and how can I recreate that in my games? At least I would assume that's kind of the angle that he's coming at this from. Okay. So he posted a list that what it looks like was pulled from various data from BGG. He got a list from Tom Vassell of Dice Tower, and I think that list was like the top selling games of 2021 or something. So he's got this list, and it's got the name of the game, and then number of top 10 appearances, the BGG rank year published, minimum number of players, max number of players, playing times, the weight via BGG, and the MSRP. Mm-hmm. So from that, he pulled data, okay, to make his own conclusions, right? But I'm going to read off this list, okay? Reading this list, I'm like,
there's some good
there are, but also I'm just like, wait, these are evergreen? Because again, for me, I'm coming at it from when I think an evergreen game, like a board game, right? Yeah. I think Clue, Monopoly, games that have been around for like a very long time. Yeah. Like that's kind of what I think, right? So this list involves, you've got Codenames, Catan, Azul, Gloomhaven, Pandemic, Ticket to Ride, Exploding Kittens, Coup, Wingspan, Marvel Legendary, Root, Quacks of Quedlinburg, Betrayal at House on the Hill, Scythe, Boss Monster, Dune Imperium, Unmatched, Super Fight, Dominion, Century, Marvel Champions LCG. So there's games on there from 2020. I'm like, how in the world are these considered evergreen? Yeah. But then again, when immediately I saw that, I'm like, well, how are you defining evergreen, right? How do you define evergreen? So what I am finding is I think the theme is, like we said, popularity and sales. Okay, so sales, popularity. I mean, if you're high on both of those, you probably have a good game because it's popular. People are buying it, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I think evergreen kind of is a very close correlation to popular / good, right? I mean, if it's popular, if a game is popular, do you think that means a game is good?
No. Just because it's popular, no.
Okay. So if it's an evergreen game, is it a good game? I mean, granted.
Yeah, like that's the difficult part.
Granted. We should also say, like, that's very subjective, right?
That's what
like
I was gonna say.
Sales are objective, right? Yeah. How much you sell of your game is a very objective term.
Yeah. At this point, Diablo Immortal's a great game.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
It's not a great game.
That's funny.
They made like $40 million in the first 2 weeks.
But didn't they like fudge those numbers or something?
I don't know. I didn't say anything about them faking numbers.
Okay. All right.
And I would have known, or if it was something that was even rumored.
Yeah. So. That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay. So, all right. So going through all of that, Jim, like what'd you take away from when we went through all of that?
There are some really good games on the list.
Yes, but again, forgetting the games, right?
Yeah.
This the whole discussion of like what is evergreen and kind of how it is defined. Like, do you agree? Do you disagree? Or like, kind of where would you come at it from?
Yeah, I would say I would disagree. Like, if they're saying a game from 2020 is an evergreen, I understand it can be a good game, but it just hasn't gone through that time frame of can it last? You know?
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, I definitely don't agree with kind of what they're saying.
Yeah. Now,
good game still.
Now, granted, I also don't want to like misrepresent what this article from Jamie Stegmaier was saying. I mean, there is a paragraph in here. On the surface, this data would indicate that your game has the best chance of being an evergreen game if it plays from 2 to 4 players in around 45 minutes and is a medium weight game that costs around $50. So, again, that's just in that list. Yeah. He's looking at all of that data, right? To just take, right?
How many people did he even ask? Because if you look at the top 10 showings and that chart, the highest one is code names with 8.
Yeah.
So how many people did he ask?
Well, I mean, I don't think so that top 10 appearances thing, I don't think that's like if you're asking people. I'm wondering if it's like looking at the Dice Towers list, for instance, looking at outlets like that would be my guess. I'm not totally certain, but no, I should say, okay. So I posed this question in 2014 and 2019, thought it was time to revisit the topic. He looked at ICV2's biannual articles containing the top 10 best-selling hobby channel board games and card dice games. So the charts are based on interviews with retailers, distributors, and manufacturers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what it looks like from here. Yeah. And Tom Vass's list was also using Game Nerd's data. So it, as a if you're a statistician, like this is the kind of stuff you kind of like live for, right? It's just all that data. So, but no, it's a good point. Yeah, because like when I saw what was it like Dune Imperium, I'm like, are we considering Dune Imperium an Evergreen? Like, I don't know. Like I don't know. It feels weird to me that we're calling a game that's been out for like a year or two, like as an evergreen title.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't.
I don't know. But again, we have this discussion, but ultimately it comes back to how do you define it? Because again, like so many things in the tabletop industry and just board gaming and card gaming, there's no one set definition for anything. Yeah. Like at least it's what it seems like, right? If you're inside of one game, like if you're playing Magic, okay, you know the rule set, you know what the term mulligan means, okay? You know what your hand size means. You know what all of the terms mean, okay? Outside of your game, it's like it's the Wild Wild West almost, right? Because like there's games that use terms from other games. Yep. Like if you're in one game, it could mean something. If you're in something else, it could mean another thing, right? Yep. So like that's kind of how I view like the whole industry. And it's not like it's a bad thing either. It's not. It's just something to keep in mind when you have these discussions. It's okay. So this is kind of how I view it, and this is how I define this term. Again, talking about evergreen. Yeah. If you're talking with someone else, okay, like how would you define it? And like that's what makes these sorts of discussions fun and engaging, right? Is like you get to debate and like argue of no, well, I think this. Like, it's fun and interesting, right? Okay, so all that being said, I mean, I'd ask you, the audience, how would you define an evergreen, right? Like, let's go from there. Like, how would you define it? Do you agree with all the stuff that we found? Are we wrong? But I think Jim, I think you kind of nailed it on the head. Like it would be something that has had to have been around for a little bit. Now, if you had to put a number on it, how long would you say a game needs to be around and popular for in order to be considered? Because I think I'd have
to say like 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like at least 10 years.
Okay.
Could, give or take a year.
Right. And to be honest, like I also think like it's using terms interchangeably and like changing the definition slightly from one discussion to another can be helpful. Like I wonder if like there's a discussion to be had when it comes to distributors and manufacturers of, hey, if your game is an evergreen title, like if we've been printing your game for X amount of years, it's now considered an evergreen. You get a discount or something like that. I have no idea how any of that works. But I'm just saying from the standpoint of, we have a term and it means X, Y, or Z. So like, I don't know if something like that would be helpful, but it's something to consider, I think. Okay. So we've touched on the naming convention, right? Okay. So, now what are some games that like come right to the top of your head when it comes to, these are evergreen. These are good evergreen titles. Well, let me also ask you this, because I think I know the three that you're going to say.
I would hope you
No,
would.
right.
I told you.
But would these games be evergreen titles that every tabletop player or every board game player should have in their collection? If that's a separate question, that's okay.
Yeah, I would think that it's just like a separate question.
Okay.
Because I know some people who are not a fan of one of these games, but love another game on this list.
All right. So what are some games that immediately come to mind when I say what are some evergreen games? What's an evergreen game?
The first three that would come to mind are Settlers of Catan, Carcassone, and Ticket to Ride.
Okay. Two of those games would immediately come to my mind as well. And it's funny because Settlers of Catan and Ticket to Ride are like the first two board games that I really played and like got me more into the hobby, right? A little bit. I remember, I think I've told this story before when I was in college about my dorm mates playing Settlers of Catan, and I had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you nerds doing?
Idiots.
What are you nerds playing? Nerd! But yeah, I've actually never played Carcassone. I have not played Carcassone yet.
I've played it a few times, and the game will never end the exact same way.
Oh, really?
It's nearly impossible. I don't think any one person would be able to play enough games.
Interesting.
So you have a bunch of tiles inside of a bag. You jumble them up, and you start just putting them, building the board. So depending on where you place it, determines like certain amount of points you get.
Yeah.
But if you're jumbling them up every single time, you pretty much never get the exact same outcome.
Right. Yeah. Like. For me, like I feel like I always recommend Settlers of Catan to like any new board game player, or like if they've never played like a good board game, like, all right, you got to try Settlers of Catan first, because there's also like a ton of different expansions, right?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch.
But like,
and then you play them all together.
But it's funny because like that to me is a telltale sign of whether a game is evergreen or not. Like if there's a game and there's like 25 different expansions, like that's probably an evergreen title.
Yeah, I could see it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for example, like Settlers of Catan. Well, I'm curious, when did that first get published? Oh wait, it was on that list. 1995. I'm pretty sure it was 1995. Let me double check real quick.
That's been a while.
Yeah, Settlers of Catan was published in 1995. That's a long time, dude.
Yeah. Real quick, also look up Carcassone, because I think that game is older.
Carcassone?
Yeah.
It's not on that list. Interesting. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised.
But Carcassone is also Carcassone game release date. Here we go. No.
Well, yeah.
November 29, 2017?
That's not correct.
There's no way. Here we go. 2000.
Okay, 2000.
Yeah, it's a tile-based game designed and published in 2000 by Hans im Glück, I think, in German.
All right.
By Rio Grande Games.
Perfect.
Yeah, so 2000. Yeah, so that's 100% evergreen title.
Yeah,
100%.
For sure. Time frame wise, it's still
plus like that, like these games also are continually reprinted.
Yeah,
right? And so, like, if a game is continually being reprinted, that is again a telltale sign it's popular, okay, and is standing the test of time because it's popular, continues to sell. We need to make more. It just sells, right? Yep. So yeah, like I'm totally on board with that list. When is the first time you played either three of those games?
The first time?
Yeah,
it was all at Grapple.
Really?
Yeah, it was all at Grapple.
No way.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
Yeah. Carcassone I played with my former boss. I don't know if I should say his name. I won't say his name. Have we said his name before?
We've said his name.
All right. Craig.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the first name. So,
my former boss.
Yeah.
And
you know what? I never played anything with Craig.
Yeah.
I never once played anything with
Did you ever play
Craig.
Commander with him?
No.
Really?
I never played anything with Craig.
Man, Craig goes ham on Commander.
I can see it.
He's got some nice decks.
Like what? What decks does he run? Or did he run?
He had 5-color slivers, I believe.
He would.
He has,
Craig, you would.
He has a Selesnya list. Oh, who is it? I forget who the Selesnya one is.
Craig would have 5-color slivers. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I forget what else he had though.
Am I wrong?
No, I don't think so. You're not, because he does have
I know.
it.
Well, I know.
And but Settlers of Catan was the first one one of the first ones I played with Brendan as well, the guy who got me into Magic. And then the last one was Ticket to Ride.
That guy, I don't want that guy.
He's a cool guy and all.
He is a cool guy and all.
I just wouldn't take board game advice from him. Guys, we're just memeing him.
We're memeing.
Yeah. And I
Brendan,
also know
love
he's
you.
not listening to it. So
all right, then I can say as much smack as I want. Great.
Yeah.
All right, that guy.
And the last one, it was on a board game Tuesday at Grapple, and that was the first time I played Ticket to Ride with a guy who absolutely loves that game. And I asked him if he would want to play Settlers of Catan. He's like, I will never play that game again in my life. I'm like, why?
What was his reason?
He hated it. He didn't like the game at all. I'm like, dude, but you like Ticket to Ride. That's like the same game.
It is. Like, you're not
That's what
wrong.
I thought. Yeah. I'm just like, it's the same game.
Longest Road isn't like the same thing.
Yeah, and so I was just a little confused, but I didn't want to push any further.
Now, granted, it's also been a minute since I've played Settlers of Catan or Ticket to Ride. Now, Settlers is over there. Was Ticket to Ride? I can't remember. I can't remember where the games are.
Yeah, Ticket to Ride.
It's probably but
that middle shelf in the center.
It is okay. Isn't Settlers more heavily involved with dice than Ticket to Ride is?
Yes. It can be,
because the RNG with Ticket to Ride is the cards, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I prefer to play the version of Settlers of Catan
with
when
the cards
when you have the deck that reveals.
Isn't that a smaller game though? Or is it like the same game?
I think it's
you can just
another
instead...
expansion.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A different expansion, I believe.
Okay. I've only ever done the dice where you roll something and you move the thief.
Yeah. If you get a 7.
7. That's what it is. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think those are some pretty popular games that are are popular evergreen titles. Now, I want to kind of then apply this to card games. Okay, gaming, the card gaming side. Again, I mean, so you'd agree, Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, 100% evergreen titles.
Yep.
Well, again, what's different about those games as TCGs and CCGs, it's not like you're buying one thing. You have to, if you want to stay up on the game and play competitively or stay current, you got to stay up with what the formats.
Your deck's not an evergreen.
Yeah,
the game is an evergreen.
Right. Correct. Yeah. That is totally true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. Unless you're playing Junt.
That's true.
You still got to change the deck every now and again.
Yep. Yeah. Because if you ever play somebody who's playing Jund, you'll just ask them, "Hey, what deck is that?" It's Jund.
Okay.
It's like, all right,
I know what you're
I
doing.
know what you're playing, 100%.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got 3 games that I wanted to touch on that I think are evergreen titles, and when it comes to card games, okay. Marvel Legendary / DC Deck Builder, DC Deck Building game. Again, both those games have been around for 10 years. With DC Deck, so the DC Deck Building game, you know, we've played a lot of this game. We're going to keep playing it. We really enjoy this game. But their recent Kickstarter, okay, the Injustice Kickstarter, I mean, they had over $1 million. That Kickstarter was like I want to say it was 1.2 million. Let me double check that real quick.
That's definitely not an unpopular amount.
No, right. Cryptozoic. let me just look here. Cryptozoic, DC deck building game.
It was also my first deck builder I've ever played.
Same. All right, so I'm pulling it up on Kickstarter here. Why? Okay. Oh no, just 1.08 million.
Okay.
With 6,000 backers.
A little over a mil.
So a little over a mil. Okay. I think if we're being honest, I don't think anybody can look at that and say DC Deck Building Game is not an evergreen title.
Yeah.
I think you'd be hard pressed to make the case it's not. Personally. If you think that it's not, excuse me, if you think it's not an evergreen title, I'd be willing to hear the argument.
Yeah.
But looking at those numbers, I think you'd be hard pressed to argue that it's not an evergreen title.
Yeah.
Now, Marvel Legendary, again, that's a game where, you know, we've talked about 27th expansion. It's something like that.
Yeah.
There's like there's been
26,
27 expansions for that game, and it is very popular. Now, I'd have to look up some numbers, some sales numbers to see how popular it is. But the fact that it's still current and they're still releasing new expansions for that game is a very good indicator that it is still popular and is still selling. Okay. Whoa. My bad.
I'm breaking stuff.
I am breaking stuff. The next one that I think is the OG deck builder, Dominion.
Yes.
I think I really think that's
a good one.
It's a good one. That's another one where I'm wondering. Let me look up number of. If you had to guess how many Dominion expansions.
43.
There's like so many.
I have no idea. I just remember you going down the list before, and it was a lot.
There's a lot. Man. 11 best Dominion expansions ranked. Like, well, there's definitely a whole lot more.
Right.
Here we go. I wonder if this will give me a full list. 12. No, it's got to be more than 12.
Most likely. Dominion is probably my favorite deck builder.
Really?
If I'd have to say so.
Really?
Yeah, because you pretty much get to decide what cards everyone's going to be utilizing and then be building your deck off of that.
Or you could randomize it.
Yeah, you can also randomize it.
For sure.
I personally like to pick or have every person pick 2 or something.
The cool thing is, like, when you do, like, you can make them very different games by the cards that you select to play, for sure.
But you can also be building your strategy from the start rather than being like, oh, the cards I really like from this other deck builder just aren't coming off the top of the deck.
And Marvel Legendary kind of follows that. Okay.
Yeah.
The difference being with
it's a mix of both.
Yeah. The difference being with Dominion, like, each card is its own stack.
Yeah.
And then once that stack is gone, the card's gone.
Yep.
Which I think it's a very interesting mechanic. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely Dominion. And then the last one is Marvel Champions. Now, I wasn't originally gonna put that, but when I saw it on the list, I'm like, screw it, I'm putting it on there.
Screw it, it's going on. When did that one come out?
2019.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, like if you look at, I have like my storage solution the way I store all of my cards from Marvel Champions, like you can open one of the boxes has all the heroes that I have,
Yeah.
and they're not even all in there, but like it's full of like 20. I don't know how many heroes there are. Like you've seen it, like with the there's a lot in there.
It's a lot.
Now, my issue, okay, I don't know if it's an issue, but living card games. They're living for a while, but eventually they all die.
Do they all die?
They do.
Okay.
They do. Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not that it's dead per se.
They got a redo.
What do you mean it got a redo?
Oh, didn't they remake the original game? Or what was it? They brought something back recently.
Well, right, but that's like the first. They're repackaging old content.
Okay.
Is what they're doing. Which again, I'm not complaining about it. I'm not complaining about that. I'm not. But what I'm saying is you don't see new content in LCGs outside of the current LCG, like Marvel Champions, like you do for games like Magic and Pokemon. Okay. They go strong for a while, and then once they stop selling, they fade out. Like, what was the Star Wars one? Star Wars Destiny. There was also a Star Wars LCG that was going and then died.
So wasn't Destiny a TCG that had dice involved?
It's not really. It wouldn't. It was more of an expandable card game. Okay, and again, LCG is essentially the same thing as an expandable card game.
I wasn't Destiny the one where you would actually buy packs like Magic? And you would build your decks?
Correct. Yes.
So, but it's not a TCG?
They did not consider it a TCG. It was not considered a TCG or a CCG. I don't believe. Audience, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm gonna see what I can find real quick. But I never saw anything because again, FFG, they had the license for or the trademark, whatever.
Okay.
Star Wars Destiny.
I'm just really surprised by that. If that is correct, I always assumed it was a TCG because it was like the exact same thing as the other card games, which they even had boxes for. And
the game also marks Fantasy Flight's game's return to making collectible card games, I guess. There we go.
Okay.
But again, it was not around for a while.
Yeah, no.
It died.
No.
It died.
No.
But again, like Arkham Horror, I mean, they recently announced new content for that. So Arkham Horror is still going strong. Yep. Lord of the Rings, we haven't seen. I mean, we have seen a little bit of new content recently, but not on the order that it was before.
Yeah.
And my fear is that Marvel Champions will do the same thing. But the thing Marvel Champions has going for it is the IP.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
It's definitely the biggest difference.
Yeah. So time will tell. So time will definitely tell. But like I really enjoy, I love LCGs, but again, my fear is just that they're not gonna stick around for a long time. And like that's also my fear with anything co-op too. I mean, Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones, another one came and went. 5 Rings, L5R is another one came and went.
They say a lot of the competitive ones tend to die.
That's true. Yeah. Because like if you're going to be a competitive one, you need the player base, and there's a lot more resources that are needed, I think, to keep any competitive game going.
Yeah.
Like you need more resources than you do a co-op game.
Yeah.
Right. So that's that probably that most likely that plays a big part in it as well. So all right. Do you have other games on this that you'd like to put out there for Evergreen games?
Ooh.
Are they card games or not card games?
One I saw on that Stonemaier list that I was like, it's one of my favorite games. Betrayal. Betrayal at House on the Hill or Betrayal at Baldur's Gate, depending on if you want the D&D version, which I prefer. So, that was on the list.
Did you play that ever before I got it for you?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay, I didn't know if you had played it before that.
Yeah. I played it with Cody a lot
Oh,
at
got it.
Grapple,
Got it,
and
yeah.
we would have there was one time at Grapple, it was 4 or 5 people playing, and we had
I still need to play this game.
We had like 7 people around the table just watching the game happen, and people
Really?
were like, "I want to get in next." It was like one of the best moments I've had with that game specifically.
Yeah.
Super great time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so Betrayal, okay. Boss Monster's another one that was on that list, and I'm like, oh, I love that game.
Yeah.
The game's a lot of fun. That's a game we need to get out. Like, we need to play that game on stream.
Yeah, we played it
sometime.
the one time at your previous house. Or at your
Yeah,
previous location.
the one time, yeah.
And I got destroyed. I'm like,
You
oh.
did?
Well, I know I lost. I shouldn't say destroyed. I know I lost. But like after going through it, I'm like, man, if I only did this earlier, I know I could have been. It would have been like closer game.
Yeah,
but I didn't know what I was doing in the early
right,
stages.
right,
Right? It takes a little bit,
It
like
does.
2-3 turns before you start getting into the groove, and then you're like, that's where I messed up. I messed up on that too.
Yeah, yeah. So. Just like anything, it's like the first couple times you play it, you're just getting the hang of it.
Yeah.
And so, okay,
I just hate it being an experienced game player and just reflecting on that what happened.
I gotcha. And so that's where, like, if you play with somebody who like beats you in anything, beats you in like everything all the time, that's what you do. Is like you find a game that you know and they don't. Hey, I got a game we can play. You want to play it? And then you destroy them a couple times, and then they get the hang of it, and then they just
start beating you.
Yeah. Let us know. Has that ever happened to you? Like, do you have anybody that you've done that with? I've done that. I have done that. When I was younger, I would do that all the time, and not necessarily with other people that like I would lose to all the time. It's just here's a way I can easily beat you. And I like doing that. I like winning. So let's go. Ooh, yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Or maybe someone that you play games against and they just tend to always piss you off in the game.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just some random stuff that they do. I don't know.
What's going on in your head right now, Jim?
Nothing. All right, next topic.
Yeah. So,
speaking of that, I was talking about Here to Slay yesterday.
You were?
Yeah, with my dad and a few of his friends, and I was like, you have to watch the first Here to Slay video or whatever one
whatever one
that freaks out in. I'm like, it's great.
If you want to watch a video of me freaking out, you should go watch me play MTG Arena.
Boop it, Dan, right here. Especially for the podcast people. They're not going to see me booping this corner.
Why is Jim saying boop? Boop.
Anywho.
That was funny, though. I remember.
Yeah, it was. So upset.
In both videos. Both of those videos that we're talking about, I was not very happy.
Well, the second one went by a lot faster, though, so you didn't have to really go through it as much.
Well, wait, which one are you talking about?
The one where I was Berserker, and I just like finished the game in like four or five turns over super fast.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even get mad in that one, I don't think. I didn't really care about that one as much.
So then I don't know what you're saying.
I'm
videos.
talking about the Magic video where I was playing against Mono Blue Tempo.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm like,
boop,
boop,
boop. Putting in the beeps. That was so funny.
And then I brought up the meme, the "This is fine" meme.
Yeah, this is fine.
I was so not happy.
It was a great time.
Yeah, that's why whenever Jim says something about playing against Mono Blue Tempo.
Yeah.
Dang
it. He's like,
I get a little salty.
Thanks, man. Thanks. That's what he thinks.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm gonna toss it to you guys. What do you guys think? What are some evergreen games that you would reference to a new player?
Yes.
What are some of your favorite evergreen titles? And what is your favorite evergreen title? We'd love to know. And then also, like, do you agree with our how we described what we think evergreen titles are? Because again, I don't really see an industry standard way to define what an evergreen game or title is. So let us know if you agree. Let us know. Be very interested to know. So, and with that, we are going to move on to card of the week.
Yay.
Jim gets to talk about this week's card of the week.
Yay. I wish I had a copy on me, though.
Yeah?
I wish I did.
You
But
do?
I pretty much know what the card
You
is.
do know what the card does.
It is a card. One of my favorite cards, and I won't mess it up this time. From a game I've been playing for a very long time, Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not Magic this time. We didn't change it like we did with
we did
Ragavan.
last time,
I messed that one up.
Yeah.
And so it is called Graceful Charity. It is the third and final card of the Holy Trinity in Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format, which is pretty much all about 2005.
Now hang on. This is the so you specifically said the Holy Trinity in Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format.
Yeah.
This is not the Holy Trinity in like all of Yu-Gi-Oh?
Well, it's not even legal in
that's
advanced
true.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
That's true.
So,
Yeah, that's true.
I
You're
mean,
not wrong.
technically, yes, but they're not even playable.
Got it. That makes sense. That makes sense.
And so what this one does is it allows you to draw 3 cards, but then you have to discard 2 cards. So you don't really plus anything in theory because you're drawing 3 cards, you're using the Graceful Charity from hand, and you're also getting rid of 2 cards.
So you're net even.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not really gaining anything like Pot of Greed, but you also get to see more cards than Pot of Greed, and the graveyard is super important. Hugely important in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I guess every card game pretty much.
Yeah.
So
especially Yu-Gi-Oh! When like card draw is at a premium.
yeah.
Kind of.
Oh yeah.
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 So I have a story about this card. Let me know when I can tell this story.
Okay. All right. Before we get to do the story.
Yes.
So one thing you're able to do in the format, right? There's a card called Thunder Dragon. You can reveal one in your hand, send it to the graveyard, and then go search your deck for up to 2 more copies of that card. Right? So you're like, all right, well, I can go do that, get the Thunder Dragon, get rid of the rest of the copies in the deck, which you're deck thinning, right? Then you can play the Graceful Charity, draw 3 new cards, and guess what you're going to be pitching? Those 2 Thunder Dragons.
Why would you pitch those Thunder Dragons?
Because they're not really, they probably won't really help you in terms of overall value because you also have to sacrifice a creature in order to bring him out. And it's also better in the graveyard because now you have a light monster in your graveyard.
Yes.
Because then you can go ahead and special summon a Chaos Sorcerer, a Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning as well. And those are huge beater cards in this format. They allow you to banish or exile stuff on your opponent's side of the field, or they're also just essentially free monsters that you can put out onto the field without tribute summoning. And one is 2200 attack or 24. And then BLS, Blackluster Soldier, is a 3000 attack monster, which is huge.
Yeah.
Greatly important. But Dan, let's hear your story.
So, all right. So, guys, the first time I played Yu-Gi-Oh! And we have this on camera. We have this on camera. I think we do.
Okay.
When we streamed Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It
that
would be a VOD.
Because I'm pretty sure that's when this happened.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that this is when that happened. All right. So, I'm playing, and I was playing this Chaos Sorcerer deck. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only decks I have are Chaos decks.
Okay. Got it.
Chaos Control or Warriors. You were playing Warrior.
Got it. That's what it was. Okay. So, I see the card Graceful Charity in my hand. I'm reading all these cards because I have no idea what these cards do. Right. So I see the card Graceful Charity says draw 3, discard 2. I'm like, oh, that looks really good. So I play the Graceful Charity. I draw 3 cards. Instantly I see, a Pot of Greed.
Yep, that'll do it.
So I discard 2 other cards. I can't remember what I discarded, but then I'm like, I will now play Pot of Greed to draw 2 more
cards. It allows me to draw 3 cards, Dan.
Yeah, so That game, that was the first time I saw the entire, like I got to see and play with the entire Holy Trinity of Goat format.
Out of all three of them, which one do you hate the most?
Oh, easy. The
Delinquent Duo.
The Delinquent Duo, because you played that first time, and I'm like,
I did it twice to you.
So here's me, okay, sitting on the table. It does what?
Yep.
What does this card
He
do?
discards a card at random, and then if he has another card in hand, he has to discard another card of his choosing.
And then he basically like blinked it, like you brought that card back to you and played it, and I'm like,
I flipped Magician of Faith to take a spell card from my graveyard and be like, here you go.
As soon as he played that card, I'm like, okay, I am never letting him play that again if I have something to say about it.
Yeah, that one's rough, man. That card is rough.
Yeah, so that game
it's also my favorite one of the Holy Trinity.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I'm all about the drawing. Discard decks are fun to play too. It always feels bad on the receiving end, but however, if I've never seen a discard deck, if I've never seen a certain discard deck, it's fun to play against it because, like, you've said this before, like it's fun watching a deck go off and like, oh, I want to play that now. Like mono black discard, I love mono black discard. I played a mono black discard deck when War of the Spark was out with Davriel and a lot of discard effects. It was a lot of fun.
Imagine if Thoughtseize was, rather than you losing 2 life, it's 3 life. But you also get to look at their hand, take a card, but then they also have to get rid of a card.
Sign me up.
Sign me all day.
Sign me up all day.
I'll take that.
That's right, because Delinquent Duo, you have to lose some life, right?
1,000, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sign me up. I will 100% worth it.
Life's a resource.
Abso-freaking-lutely. So, all right, Yu-Gi-Oh players, let us know what's your favorite card of the Holy Trinity of Goat format,
or just your favorite card,
or your most hated card.
Definitely that one. I don't care about your favorite card anymore. Tell me your most hated one.
Yeah. Isn't it like your most hated one and your favorite one? Aren't they mostly the same thing? Because it's the one you love to play, but also hate to play against it.
No,
I
wouldn't say that. No.
So what's your favorite one then? Your favorite's Delinquent Duo.
Yeah.
What's your most hated one?
Well, all right. If we're saying, I think I would have to say out of just the Holy Trinity.
No, just in all of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, in all of Yu-Gi-Oh, my most hated card. Wow. I don't think I know off the top of my head.
All right. Well, then let's the Holy Trinity then.
Okay. If I was versing it, I would have to say Graceful Charity, because I know if they drop a light and a darkness monster from their hand, then they're going to be like, here's a BLS.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So they can just get so much value from that. Although picking apart your hand is definitely rough. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, there also comes a time in like the stalemate where it's just like, oh, I draw a card, pass. They draw a card, pass. I draw a card, pass.
That happened, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not as bad with the Delinquent Duo. I just love it.
Yeah. Early game, it really sucks.
Yeah. Especially if you get something good.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's great.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, well, that's today's episode for you. Guys, let us know what you think. Like we said, what's your most hated card there? Let us know. But also, I'm interested to know if you have a favorite card in Yu-Gi-Oh, or if you're a favorite of the Holy Trinity. Let us know. All right, before we get out of here, Jimbo, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram at JimMorganHNH.
You guys can find me on Twitter at _DG Campbell and on Instagram at Daniel.G.Campbell. Head over to hobbiesandhappiness.com. Again, www.hobbiesandhappiness.com, and you can find links to all of our socials there. You can find links to our YouTube page, podcast. Everything is pretty much there. I need to update the website a little bit, but still you can find all links to everything there. Facebook, YouTube, everything is there. So that's all we got for you this week. Again, in regards to streaming, we're continually streaming. So we've now moved to at least once a week. Yep. So we're doing once a week. And then pretty soon, within the next couple weeks, we will be doing at minimum once a week, plus twice every other week.
Yes.
Right? So we'll be doing this every
other
stream
week on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Every other. Yes, correct.
Yes. So every 2 weeks here on Saturday.
Yep.
Every week do we know the day yet?
Probably Wednesday.
Probably
Wednesday. That's kind of what we're thinking. Yeah. We'll continually get that figured out. So we're continually bringing you guys new content each and every week. So yeah, look for that. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. Had a lot of fun, and we'll catch you in the next episode. See everybody.
Take care.